Hey, it's time for another writing update. My last update was 26 days ago on February 18. And I took a break, as you have seen. Now, of course, I've been posting some other videos on this channel, posted some book reviews, did some live streams, and all that was a lot of fun, but I have not been writing. And for the sake of total transparency, I want to share with you a little bit what happened. I think that the main reason that I took a break from writing was something that I actually shared in that previous update. You can go back and rewatch it. And that was kind of my struggle because of the fact that I felt that I had not been planning enough, and I had jumped straight into writing after only a month of planning. And I had to pay the price for that because I got stuck so often trying to figure out what would happen next. And I think it was at that moment that I kind of realized that I had to change my strategy. Originally, I was all about following the advice that I saw on so many other videos, and that was mostly writers saying, just write whatever you want, just go finish that draft, and then you can go back and rewrite and rewrite and rewrite. And I believed them. I thought, that's the way to go for it. And that's why my initial plans for writing my novel were so ambitious. It was all about, getting that first draft out and going by the numbers in a certain way, following all the advice. And it's mostly thanks to your feedback in the comments that I realized, well, you know what? Not every writer is the same. Not what works for one writer won't work for another one. And I feel like I'm a bit of a blend between a plotter and a pantser. I need both. And I think I skipped part of that plotting process. And then I restricted myself too much when it came to pantsing and just letting the story take me where it wanted to go. And so I just stepped on the brakes. I was like, okay, I really need to step back from this thing and just wait for the moment until the energy and the inspiration comes back. Now, I know, again, that this goes against a lot of the advice that you will hear from experienced writers. They say, you have to write no matter what. Don't wait for the inspiration to strike. Just sit down and write. And writing is also just work. And over time, you will get to the phase where you can start to improve what you've written. Your first draft is going to be pretty bad. And in fact, your first book is going to be terrible. Your second book is probably going to be very, very bad. And it's only after doing this time and again that you will gradually learn the craft of writing and the art of writing. So I felt like, yeah, that might work for a lot of people, but I just need a break. I need to step back to get some perspective. And we'll see what will stick after a couple of weeks of that original story that I wanted to write. And so here we are. My energy is back. I really want to pick up writing again. And to my great surprise, actually the story that I have in my mind hasn't changed that much. So I don't think I have to start all over again. I will just continue where I left off. But I might actually change the process of writing. I was very inspired, and you may have heard me talk about this in one of my podcasts as well, by a couple of writers that instead of writing the entire story in one go and going through all the edits and the multiple drafts, instead of doing that, they actually start sharing that story with their followers almost from day one. There is actually an entire world out there that I heard about thanks to some of the commenters of writers and authors that write this serialized fiction. And so you go to a website, you basically subscribe to a feed. It's almost like what you do with an RSS feed or a podcast. And then every week or every month, depending on how fast a writer writes, you will get new chapters, new episodes of that story. And there's actually a very small group of authors that have succeeded in turning that in almost a business, a job. They set that up in conjunction with, like for instance, a Patreon feed where you can support the author and you can follow the process, get some more behind the scenes information. And there are also quite a few authors that first published the story as an audiobook for free. Anyone can download those chapters. And once the book is done and finished and out there, that is actually the first target audience that will love to buy the book, because they've been so engaged in the process of creating the book. Now, there are obviously also downsides to that approach. The major one is that writing is a craft, and it's something that you have to learn, and it takes time. And the revisions, the rewrites, the editing process, and even the previous process of writing all these different drafts, it's obviously for the story, but more importantly, especially for a beginning writer, it's also very good for the writer, because that's how you learn. It's an iterative process. And so if you start to do episodic stories, then obviously, especially if you have a rhythm of publishing a chapter a week, like some of these authors do, you don't have the time to go through those revisions. You just put the story out there. And so I think that would be a shame to miss out on that iterative process. However, I also see the great advantage in having kind of like a shorter arc when it comes to telling the story, where instead of having to focus on an entire book at once, which for me at least is very overwhelming and very daunting, because I just don't have experience in telling these long stories with multiple character arcs and all sorts of mystery, and I'm still kind of building up the world. And so I think that's, and maybe this is also kind of linked to ADHD, is that the overwhelm of possibilities sometimes just results in paralysis. I don't know how to proceed. There are too many options. And there's something that really appeals to me in this idea of sharing the story over time, because then you can focus on, let's say, a chapter a week, which is, it's much easier to kind of oversee the things that need to happen in that chapter. It's even, the chapter itself is short enough to write in a week or 2 weeks. I don't know. Of course, at one point you just have to pick a rhythm and stick to it. But I think that if you establish a good writing routine, it may actually even have a little bit of editing and revision built in. So, and there is another thing that I really like about that particular method, is that people don't have to wait a year or 2 years for a book to appear, and they can witness the creation of the story. It's kind of what I've been trying to do with this channel. The reason that I did these daily updates, and I will probably go back to these daily updates, is that it was a way to involve my future readers in the process. And I couldn't have gotten so far without the incredible help that I've had from you, from all these followers that have so much more experience when it comes to both writing and reading, especially in the fantasy genre, and have given me so much great tips and also story ideas. And so there's something very powerful about that. And so maybe this whole project is not just about the end product, the book itself, once it comes out, but maybe the true value for you and for me is this process, is the creative process, to be a part of that, and for me to take advantage of your input over time, and for you also to be able to influence the course of the story. I think there is, I mean, maybe the end result will not be the next Lord of the Rings, but I have no, I don't think that this first book is going to be any good. But that's not a problem. This is my first book. I have time to write some more, hopefully. But it may not be a good book, but it can be a great, fun process, which is educational for me, but also for you. And so, because we learn how to craft better stories. And there is something, the one thing that I love about having done these videos and building up this channel is that over the course of, what is it now, 2.5 months, I build up a group of friends, a community of people that are very involved in what I do, but also have given me so much inspiration, so much information, so many tips, reading tips as well. The community is doing these live streams every week. It's so much fun. Why would I not use that in the process of creating this first book? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my time to discern this idea and see if this would work for me, because obviously once I start going down that road, I know that I have to stick to it. I know that I need to be consistent. And that means that my writing routine has to be ironclad. I cannot just post 5 chapters and then take a break for 3 months. On the other hand, I do realize now that the break that I had to take was because I was trying to do way too much. And the project became way too big. For me, for my type of brain, the way my brain works, I think these smaller sprints, creative sprints, could actually work really well and can help me to finish the book. And you know what? I'm thinking it's maybe sharing the story or sharing these chapters may not even be me sharing the finished book. It could very well be that I'm actually sharing the first draft. And based on all the input that I can get week after week after week, that will inform the second draft or maybe the whole editorial process. And so there might actually be a second phase of the creation of this story that I don't have to share on a weekly basis. I can just do that as any other writer. So the whole idea of sharing this chapter by chapter, week after week, could be just a way to share the creative process of the first draft. And then what I could do is just continue doing that maybe with book 2, because I already have so many ideas for the sequel to this book. And all the while I'm writing that second draft, I could also be involved in the kind of editorial or rewriting process of the first book. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Maybe it's crazy. It's certainly unconventional, but I've see it work. I also really like the fact that it makes you less dependent on the whole publishing situation right now, where it's really, really hard to get noticed. It's very difficult to reach readers for a book if they've never heard of you. Whereas if I start sharing the process from day one, as I've been doing actually with this channel, you don't have to wait for the book to be finished to build up a community around the project. And so that's already the win. Even if my book is a total dud and it never sells a single copy, I still have the incredible joy of having shared these months with you, and to continue to build this creative community around fantasy books and maybe my stories, but also definitely the stories that I read and that I love to pass on. So it's such a win. Why would I go the traditional route? I know that for so many authors, it barely works anymore. And for me, having been in working in social media for more than 20 years now, I've been a podcaster since day one. Like on the dawn of the invention of podcasts, I was already doing that. So I'm so used to sharing stories on a weekly basis. Why not just take all that experience and bring it to this book project? And so what would it look like? Well, it would just be me reading the result of a week of writing. And that's probably going to be a chapter, because then, if I write about 40 chapters, that gives me something to do for the rest of the year. And then just recording it, reading it myself probably. And that'll be kind of like an audiobook. I don't know. I like that idea. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for sticking around on my channel. If you have anyone else who you think this project might be interesting to, feel free to send them a link to the channel and help me spread the word. If you want to join kind of the conversation in a forum, then of course you can leave a comment on the video. I always appreciate that. But you can also become a member of my Discord community. And if you would like to do that, it's a wonderful community, very welcoming. I'm monitoring it carefully so that it's really a safe, positive space. Go to fatherroderick.com/Discord. You can sign up completely for free. And it's automatic. You don't have to ask me for permission. And I'd love to get to know you better on Discord as well. So again, fatherroderick.com/Discord. I will talk to you soon. And thanks for watching. Take care.